Hello friends, and welcome Groovy Chicks and Hip Cats. Welcome to 2019, my first video. It's going to be a request for a song called The Song Is You by Jerome Kern. I'm going to play it for you with a backing track and then talk a little bit about improvisation. I'm going to start out the year with this quote from Mehmet Murat Ildan, and it is this: "In the new year, never forget to thank your past years because they enable you to reach today. Without the stairs of the past, you cannot arrive at the future." And that is so true. And I live by that. So I'm very grateful for the past that I've had, that I can be here for you today. And here we go now with the first song for 2019, The Song Is You. Starting out, I just want to say, I know a lot of my subscribers or people who are watching this are coming from a classical background, or you're coming from a background in which you don't read music, or you haven't read music and you're trying to get better at that. And so my suggestion is to you, you should learn how to read music from a lead sheet. This is what jazz musicians do. We just read a sheet of music that has the melody line and the chord symbols written above that. And that's what this is. That's what I was using, and how you use that to create a full-bodied jazz interpretation is what I want to show you. And I can't cover this in one video. I've covered a lot of this in previous videos, but I will talk to you about this specific song by Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein second. This is The Song Is You. It's in the key of C. So now the first thing is that I create an introduction. I'm playing with a backing track, so I wrote in the introduction, which is an 8-bar suspension on a G chord, like a G sus chord. So now there's two techniques. There's this one where I play the chord in the right hand, and there's the technique where I play the chord in the left hand. So if I'm playing in the left hand, then the right hand is playing just the melody note. Now sometimes they blend like this, so you have a fuller sound between the two. You're playing chords in both hands. But for the most part, if you're playing with a rhythm track like this, or you're playing with an actual group, a band with a bass player and a drummer, you want to play just chord voicings. Now the first thing I had to do with this score is I had to correct the wrong chords. Now that's a funny thing, but you'll find even in the best of fake books, unless the chords were redone by a well-known jazz musician like Dick Hyman, they're not going to be correct. The publishers don't get that, for whatever reason. But some of them are fairly close, but not all of them. And besides that, you may find your own chord changes that you like better. Or you might want to do something, because I'm going to show you a couple little tricky things I did with this. Basically, we're in C, a major 7, so it's there. So now I'm going to voice it here, like with these combination of root position and inverted chords, or basically what you call block chords, but they're also rootless chords. So I might go, now that's rootless there, that's rootless, and that's rootless, and that's rootless. See, so some are rootless, that has a root in it, root's in there, root's there, but then if I go up to here, there's no root. So C major 7 to E flat diminished to D minor. See, now on the score that I'm reading, it says C major 7 to C diminished. Now I'm not going to use the C diminished because I want some movement. So I'm going to go up to that's an important thing to understand, that diminished chords that you see on a lead sheet are not always the right ones, that you might have to use an inversion of that in order to get good bass line movement. So I want this movement. I want C to E flat, descending down to D to G, so I have to use an E flat diminished there. It's just an inversion of the C diminished. And then the D minor 7, the G7, of course, here now I invert that. And then I go to an E minor 7, then I go an E flat 7. Now I'm going to go to an E flat 9 up here. You see, so D minor. Now, a good question is, what happens when the chord gets in conflict with the melody? Well, then you play less notes. You don't play all the notes of the chord. Say, I want to play that chord. Well, I could still play that melody note, but I might want to leave that one out. You might want to play the G7 like that. So a lot of times the chords in the left hand will just be two notes, like maybe this, like here. Like that, and that's enough, particularly with a bass. Now there I'll add something in the right hand, you see, and go to so you want to mix up techniques. You want to use block chords, you want to use rootless voicings, you want to use spread voicings. That's a spread voicing. It has a root in 7th in the left hand, flat 5. This allows me to get a nicer sound. And also, it breaks up the monotony of one technique. In other words, it's better to use a variety of techniques when you're playing a song than just one technique. It'll sound too bland. By combining them with root position chords and inversions and rootless chords, and then spread voicing, and then maybe some chords that are all voiced in the right hand. Those three combinations of ways of playing, a melody with chords are really important to learn, so that you have a variety in your playing, and it's not just on one level. It's on a multitude of levels which are interesting to the ear and which have a fuller sound and are just better ways of playing. So now I just go to spread voicing here. And particularly when the melody gets lower there, and the chord is going to be in the way of the melody, I can move it down and then play the chord in the right hand. You see, I'm playing the voicings in the right hand now. See, now I'm playing more of the voicings in the right hand. Then I move up Now I go up here. Now in the second A section, I went up an octave. Why? Because I don't want to just repeat the same thing I did in the first 8. It's not interesting. You want to have some way of telling a story which gets more interesting as you go along. You know, if you're telling a story verbally in words, you want to draw your listener into the topic of the story, and you want to draw them in by creating sort of a lift, you know. So I created kind of a lift here by going up an octave and then maybe filling out the chords more like that and voicing more interesting like that. You see, like I get that voicing there. Now I'm using a rootless chord here and I'm harmonizing it in the right hand. And so on. So that's what I'm trying to do in the second A. Now we'll go into the bridge and show you how I got into that. I should mention that this song is elongated, meaning that the normal AAB tune is 32 measures. This is 64, particularly if you're counting it, you know, like in an up tempo, like I'm doing here. Like, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. If you're counting it like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, which is a ballad style, then it would be 32 measures. But we have a bridge here now that's, he goes to, he's in C major. So Jerome Kern goes to E major. Now how do you get to E major from C? Well, the 2-5, right? F sharp, minor 7, B7 to E major. Well, I learned this trick from Fred Hirsch, in which I could move from the C major now through the cycle of fifths to get to the E major like this. Going through the cycle of fifths. C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, and we're into E. 2 beats each, so it's a 2-measure passage like C minor 7, F7, B flat minor, E flat 7, A flat minor 7, D flat 7, G flat minor 7, B7. That's pretty complicated, but here we now are in the key of E major. Now we're in E major, so we have 4 sharps. So now this is a little complex. I'll try to go slowly here, but we have E major, 7 to its 2 chord, F sharp minor 7 to B7. So I'm using a passing chord, which is an F diminished, like this. That F diminished is really pretty there. F sharp, minor 7, B7. Now the melody goes back to E major 7, but goes up to the major 7 of the melody, and now it does a modulation. Now technically it's moving from in here, it's moving to a G sharp minor, which is the 3 chord, but it's going by way of a 2-5, so it's A sharp minor 7 to D sharp 7, dominant 7th into G sharp minor. Now you can think of it as B flat minor 7, E flat 7 going to A flat minor if it's easier for you to think in flat keys, but now we're in G sharp minor. C sharp 7. Cycle of fifths here now into the C sharp minor, into F sharp, cycle of fifths now into F sharp minor, F sharp minor now into B7. Now B7 is going to move up a half step to the C major for the last A, which is in C. You see, that's how he gets, it's very clever how he does this, how he maneuvers into E and how he maneuvers out of it, you know. That's the important thing, is that you want to release, and that's always in the bridge in which you go into a different key in most standards, and how to get in and out has to be very clever. You know, in Body and Soul, it's less clever and more unexpected. This is very clever because he's on a B chord. All he has to do is just move up a half step, and the melody note is already there. You know, so it's da 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 da. So the melody note is already a B, da 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 da. You see, so that's very easy. Now the other thing he could have done, and I do this, da da da. Now I use substitute chords here. Now what that is it's just going to the flat 5 of the chord. Instead of C major, I'm going to F sharp, half diminished, to F minor, to E minor, to E flat. That's another trick I learned from Fred Hirsch. So these descending lines harmonically that work over a single chord are very clever. Like this. Listen to how it sounds. See how beautifully it fits that melodic line instead of just staying on the one chord like, or like this. Now we have this. See, that's what these geniuses can come up with. In other words, these fantastic chord progressions to fit over a melody, because they have, their ears are so tuned into music, they're in depth. Now here is the change, the one change. It does the 2-5-1 into the 4 chord here. That's the only time I use that. You know, I know that people use it earlier than that, but I like to leave it for the end of the song because it's more dramatic when you hear it at the end. So we have this. And then the F minor, then 3-6, 2-5 to the 1 there now. So that's the chord progression and how it fits the melody. This is a beautiful thing that Jerome Kern wrote with Oscar Hammerstein. So talking a little bit about the improvisation, you're in the key of C here, so this is pretty straightforward. Just following the chord progression until we get to that transition in the bridge where it goes in the 2-5s. Now you have to play the scales of those 2-5s. So I usually like to try to play a figure that is repeated, like this. You know, a little figure that takes us into the E major. Now we're in the key of E, so now we have to play this 4 sharp. So this is a little tough. At least for pianists, anyway. Now it's going to modulate into the 3 chord G sharp minor, C sharp, then C sharp minor, F sharp, and then F sharp minor, into B, then up a half step. So that's how he gets out of E. He just goes up a half step. And then we're back into C again. You see how he gets out of B. The B7 just goes up a half step. But I played substitute chords there, so I did the F sharp down the scale. But the essence of it is you're in the key of E, and how do I get the E back to C? Well, the 5 chord of E is going to move up a half step, but retaining the same melody note. Like, you know, so the melody notes. And so you have. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful transition from the great lift. It's like a modulation that works perfectly. Signing off from the Jazz Ranch, thanks so much for joining me on this first installment of 2019. I hope it's the best year for you ever. And there's going to be lots in store for you in terms of new videos and new tutorials coming up for me in this year. Please write to me. I love to hear from you. And I always try to respond. You will see if you read my comments that I always try to respond. So until next time, I'll say, in the words of my great friend Hermie Dressel, who's still looking down on us with pity, saying, swing loose. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.